Okay, a very good evening to everybody. Welcome to this Licensing Subcommittee B meeting for Hackney Council. My name is Gareth Sykes. I'm the Governance Officer for this evening, and I'll be introducing the meeting by just very quickly and succinctly going through the protocol for remote meetings, and then we'll go to the formal agenda. So the protocol for remote hearings is as follows. Only speak when invited to by the chair. If you wish to speak, please raise your hand. You can raise your hand by just raising your hand, but also in Google Meet, there is a raise hand button at the bottom of your screen. So you could use either way to raise your hand. Please ensure that your mics are muted when you're not speaking. When speaking, please be succinct and do not exceed the allocated timeframes. If referring to any written submissions, please refer to the specific page number in the agenda pack. Any new evidence can only be submitted at the discretion of the committee chair and the agreement of all parties. If you're having any technical difficulties, please use the chat function in Google Meet to alert the meeting or dial in using the details in the invitation that's been previously circulated to you. Please do not use the chat function to put formal questions to the subcommittee, and any persistent disruptive behaviour will result in your removal from this meeting. And after each application has been considered, we will ask you to leave the meeting, and then obviously you'll get an update on the decision as soon as possible after this meeting. So that concludes the remote meeting protocol. So we are now going to go to the formal meeting agenda, beginning with agenda item 1, the election of the chair. Councillor, please, over to you.
Councillor Smith?
Yeah, someone needs to propose a chair.
I'd like to propose Councillor Smith as chair.
Great,
Councillor
thank you very much.
Ross?
I second that.
Thank you, Councillor
Fantastic.
Ross.
Thank you very much indeed, everyone, and welcome to this licensing subcommittee meeting B. Here's the hard copy. Wednesday, the 28th of June, 7 o'clock. Apologies, we're slightly late, but I'm sure we'll catch up. So just to advise that this is a public meeting, which will be live streamed for public viewing. And just the meeting participants, just to note that Councillor Chris Kennedy, put your hand up, please. And Councillor Yvonne Maxwell, put your hand up, please. Thank you. Are joining the meeting to observe proceedings. Thank you very much. And we will just spin round the virtual room just to introduce ourselves. Obviously, we're dealing with agenda item 6 here initially to start with, but okay, let's just go around the room. So I'm Councillor Smith, Chair of Licensing, and also Stoke Newington Councillor, chairing this evening. Councillor Midnight Ross.
Hi everyone, my name is Midnight Ross. I'm the panel member for the Licensing Committee here this evening, and I am Councillor for Haggerston Ward.
Thank you very much. Councillor Walker, can you put your camera on?
My camera is on, I think.
Is it? Oh, I can't see you. Oh, well.
I'm Joe Walker. I'm a member of the Licensing Committee and Councillor for De Beauvoir Ward.
Okay, we'll just go through our observers. Councillor Kennedy.
Councillor Chris Kennedy, Hackney Wick Ward, just observing tonight as part of my training.
Thank you very much. And then Councillor Maxwell.
Yes, Councillor Yvonne Maxwell for Hoxton West, and like Councillor Kennedy, I'm observing this as part of my training. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And then we got Suba.
Hi, good evening. I'm Subhashri Ramana, Principal Licensing Officer, and I will be presenting the reports. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we've heard from Gareth. Thank you, Gareth.
Sorry, Chair, just to interject, I'm conscious you're going to go around the virtual room. There are a few on the screen that I do not recognise.
Okay,
so on the list that I have, but we'll get to that when we can.
Okay, well, do you want to address it now, Gareth? What? Just ask them.
I note on my screen I have a Matteo, if I pronounce your name correctly, Izia. I don't have you on my list. Can I just inquire? But yes.
Yeah. So he's C8.
C8. Thank you very much.
And C2 as well on the call.
Okay, thank you very much, Subha. And I also have CH Co-op Secretary. Can I just confirm, please, what item you're here for? Your microphone is muted.
My name's Sean Merkett. I'm the applicant's agent and a
Okay.
Thank you, Sean. And thank you.
I can't seem to change my name on Google Meet, so apologies for that. But I'll be presenting the case as soon as we get started.
Okay, thank you.
And last but not least, I have to the right of Councillor Kennedy, Burke, if I pronounce his name correctly, Ozer. Again, I do not have you down on my list of names. Could you just let us know what your...
He's here. Sorry, he's here for agenda item 7.
Okay, thank you very much for clarifying. Much appreciated. Thank you. That's all. That everybody else appears on the screen seems to correlate with the list that I have.
Okay, thank you, Gareth, for that. I've got 4 others on my screen off screen, so you just have to bear with me if I get confused. I think Mario is one of those. Mario is our IT expert. Thank you, Mario. And I think Channing Riviere is one of them, and C1 might be another. Okay, let's continue. We've got, well, we know who Matteo is. We know who Burke is. We've got Melinda on here. Melinda, can you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, yeah, my name's Melinda and I'm a resident.
And you're here for the Heart of Hackney, yeah?
Yeah.
Suba, what code does she come under?
C2.
C2. Okay. Would you prefer to be referred to as C2? I know we've mentioned your name because it's on the screen, but it's not the name that I've got here. Do you want to be referred to as C2?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Right. And then we've got Mahir. Do you want to introduce yourself, Mahir? Yeah, that was you.
Oh, right. Hi, sorry. Just switch to my Wi-Fi. This is Mahir Kilic. I'm here for item 7 to do a representation on behalf of Mr. Berkyoza.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. And then we've got Aziz.
Hello. My name is Aziz. I'm here as a licensee for Heart of Hackney.
Thank you, Aziz.
Nice to meet you.
And then we have Neil. I've got Neil on the screen.
Yeah, police licensing.
Oh. I recognise you. I should have known that.
And I'm here for Amanda because she's got her daughter's prom night tonight, so we've had a swap.
Okay, cool. Thank you. It's Hardwick, isn't it?
Hunwick. Be pronouncing it.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Right, so I'm just looking through here now. Amanda, you've got your hand up.
Yes, Joe. I just wanted to ask you whether or not you wanted to ask the parties for the second item to come back a bit later, or if they, if they didn't want to hang on, for the whole duration.
Yeah. Do you want to introduce yourself whilst you're on screen as well?
Yes. My name's Amanda North. I'm a solicitor from Legal Services for Hackney Council. Thank you, and supporting members this evening. Thank you.
Chair, just before you and your fellow councillors joined the room, I did sort of say to everybody that was here for item 7 that while we're doing item 6 to sort of turn their cameras and microphones off. So
yeah. Okay, folks. I mean, if those who are here for item 7, which is the Donner Store, 468 Kingston Road, if you want to come back, what time is it? It's in about an hour's time, Amanda, do you think? So you can leave and come back at 8:15.
We will be, our cameras and cameras of microphones are here. It may, finish less than an hour, so we don't want to switch back again. So.
Okay, well that's up to you. But if you want to, if you want to leave and come back, that's fine. I mean, you can obviously turn your camera off and your microphone off and go off and do something else and have it in the background or something.
That's fine. Thank you.
Excellent. Okay, so there are 4 others off screen. So those people that haven't called could and that are relevant. Let me just see. Channing, I can see you. If I missed anybody, have I missed anyone? I think I've got everyone. Yes.
Yeah, Chair. Just to clarify, I have C1 on my screen, which relates to item 6.
Okay. Okay, C1. So
and
C.
Also Ed, which I believe is C5.
Okay,
that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty much it in terms of item 6.
Okay, so we've got at the moment we've got C1, C2, and C5. Yeah.
Correct, Chair.
And
Excellent.
C8.
And C8.
And C8.
C8 is here as well.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Got it. Yes, Mr. Marquette.
It's a bit confusing. C1, C2, C3, C4. Are these residents objecting or observers or what?
Yeah, no, these are all residents, but they want to be basically they want to use a code because they don't want their names to be out there. But if that's okay with you,
no, that's fine. Yeah.
I mean, I feel that that's fair, and I believe members probably feel that's fair as well.
Yeah.
Amanda.
Yes, Chair. I was just going to say it corresponds with the agenda pack, which identifies the representations as C1, C2, etc. So that is in line with the agenda pack. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, Mahir.
Yes.
You got your hand up. Is that a legacy hand or is that?
Oh, apologize. I forgot it.
Okay. Right, I think we've done the introductions now, folks, so welcome again. That took us a little bit of time to get through. Apologies about that. So we'll just crack on with the agenda. So agenda item 2 is apologies for absence. List apologies for absence, none at the time of writing. Apologies for lateness, none at the time of writing. Any members of, any declarations of interest, agenda item 3, declarations of interest from members.
None for me, Chair.
Okay. Councillor Ross?
None from me, Chair.
Yep. I have a sort of a strange, well, not strange, but I have to declare that I use the restaurant next door, which is basically owned, I believe, by the old owner of the Heart of Hackney. So I'm just putting it out there. I mean, I go in there and eat, and that's as far as it goes, because I'm a big fan of their shish kebab. So I just want to put it out there. Okay, agenda item 4 is the minutes of the previous meeting. So there's no minutes have been included in the pack. And now agenda item 5 is the hearing procedure, which I'll just run through very quickly. There's various steps to this. So step 1 is the appointment of chair, which we've done. Step 2, the principal licensing officer will outline the report over 5 minutes you have for that. Step 3 is the applicant's case. So the applicant will present their case in support of their application. Again, that's 5 minutes, and I'll have this on the clock. And then we have responsible authorities as well at step 4. In this case, environmental health have withdrawn agreed conditions. The police have also withdrawn and agreed conditions, which we can go into in a discussion. So there are other persons still left, and there will be a planning informative on here to recommend that you apply for a lawful development certificate to make sure that you've got appropriate planning permission, Mr. Marquette. I'm sure you're aware of that. You've probably seen that in the pack. So that's kind of where we're at with that. And then step 6 is a discussion. That's 15 minutes. Step 8, final points of clarification from members. And then essentially that's the end of the meeting. We'll ask those that are participating in this particular bit to then leave. You will get a decision within 5 working days, at least a skeleton decision within that time. So that's it. So, everyone happy so far? Just making sure. Good. Right. So we'll move on then to step 2, which is I'd like to invite the principal licensing officer to outline the report, please. Thank you, Suba.
Thank you, Chair. So the first item we're going to consider this evening is for a premises license received under the Section 17 of the Licensing Act 2003 for the Heart of Hackney, 255 Mass Street. The applicant is seeking permission for recorded music and to authorize the supply of alcohol for consumption on the premises from 11 to 2300 Sunday to Thursday, and from 11 to midnight Friday and Saturday. Police have withdrawn their representation based on reduced hours of operation of the garden area from 2100 to 1800 hours. And Environmental Protection have withdrawn their representation based on agreed set of conditions. And this document has been circulated.
Yeah, I forgot to mention environmental health. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Representation still remains from environmental enforcement and other persons. And I have nothing else to add. Thank you, Chair.
Did you say that environmental enforcement is still?
Environmental enforcement representation still remains, but from the email correspondent, I can agree the applicant has agreed conditions proposed by the environmental enforcement. Mr. Murcutt has confirmed.
Okay,
it.
so environmental health is covered. So they've agreed conditions with both sections of that, both protection and enforcement. Great. So members, you have read all the documents. Just to make it clear, yes, just nod or whatever. Councillor Walker, I can't see you, so you need to say.
Yes, read all the documents.
Fantastic. Right then. Okay, so now we move on to Mr. Murcutt to make the case for this application. You've got 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, everyone. Can everyone hear me okay? Can I have a thumbs up or something? Yeah, that's great. This pub's a traditional family pub that's had a bit of a checkered history, and it went for review a couple of years ago. There was an incident that turned out to be quite unpleasant, and the police went for review, and it got the license revoked. So this is a completely fresh application with a completely new owner who is in negotiation with the freeholder. There's no connection with the previous owner, and we've gone basically for very simple core hours as a traditional family pub. It's not going to have live music, it's not going to have dancing, it's not going to be a nightclub. It's till 11 o'clock at night, and the garden is going to be a bit of a focal area for lots of reasons. One thing we've had meetings with the police on site recently, and we have agreed, the applicant, Aziz Ozdemir, has agreed unconditionally all their conditions, unreservedly. So that's the first thing. We've also been in negotiation with the noise team with George Wakarak, and we've agreed all his conditions unreservedly. We've agreed Joyce Fruin, which is environmental enforcement, which is about litter collection and rubbish collection and, concerns over that. That's all been agreed completely. And we had a long positive discussion with the police. They're the ones that went for the revocation before. I'd arranged to meet them at 11 o'clock. Amanda turned up at 10 o'clock without me present and actually spoke to Mr. Ozdemir quite carefully and basically grilled him as to his background. At the end of the discussion, when I appeared at 11, we then talked for another hour, and it was very positive and very fruitful. And she is happy with the situation such that she's withdrawn all her objections. We've agreed all her conditions. New CCTV system's gone in, and there's a new security contract that Mr. Ozdemir has arranged. She's happy with all that. She gave some very positive, helpful suggestions about the garden and about how to rearrange things in the pub itself. So that was all very positive. With George, we talked about the garden, and we've read through all the objections from the residents. Based on the history of the previous pub, it's not too surprising that they have their concerns. What came out of a lot of their letters, I'm pulling various threads together, was a big concern about the garden. And in the original application, the applicant had applied for 9 o'clock. Those are the standard hours for Hackney for an external garden area. That's what we went for. The police were happy with that. However, Aziz, having read all the objections from the residents, said, well, if they all want 6 or 7 o'clock, let's be really reasonable and go for 6 o'clock. So we've gone for 6 o'clock for the garden. Part of the application has they came up with suggestions, the residents, for play area and various things to make it more family friendly. We've got a play area consultant that does a lot of work for Hackney Council on board, who does schools and playgrounds. He's going to give us some advice. He'll understand the health and safety aspects. We've got him lined up. Of course, this will all be conditional on getting the license granted, the premises license granted. But once that, should we be successful and it is granted, then this will all kick into place fairly quickly. So we'd be interested in hearing the residents' comments on that, about a soft play area. We thought of swings, trees, Wendy houses, soft surfaces. My main concern would be health and safety, in that there'd have to be some disclaimer that the pub's not responsible if one of the kids hurts themselves, if it's the parents that need to be there in the garden supervising the kids. George, the noise team officer, is very concerned about the garden, and he suggested a condition that limits it to 20 people at any one time in the garden. Now, the applicant has agreed that condition. What George would like to do is a noise report on the garden specifically within 3 months of the license being granted, if that's successful, such that he can review the situation. We can talk to the residents and come up, and if that works, 20, or if it's too many, or if you could get some more in. Noise mitigation measures, he's quite keen to do that. So again, he's put some quite tough conditions in his noise report. Last time I spoke to him, he said he wasn't sure whether he had time to withdraw it in time for the meeting, so I don't know where that stands. There might be an email that's come through saying he's happy with them all, but essentially the applicant has agreed all those conditions, again, unreservedly.
Okay, that's 5.5 minutes.
Okay, that's it. I think the new owner deserves a fresh start, and we'd welcome some suggestions and possibly any other comments or conditions you may have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that. I just want to ask members if you have any points of clarification you would like at this moment in time, or do you want to wait to the discussion?
No points of clarification from me at this point, but I do have questions coming up after the discussion. Thanks.
Same for me. That's likewise. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, great. Okay, so we'll move on to other persons now, and I'd like to call first of all C1, please. You've got 5 minutes. Yep, C1, off you go. Can't hear you. You're on mute. Yep, still on mute. You're still on mute. So I'm calling C1. You're on mute. Okay, I'm going to leave you for a minute. And now I'm going to call C2, please. C2. Yep. I presume they know who they are.
Chair, can I ask for Mario to assist C1 if they're having some difficulties, please? Thank you.
Yep. Mario, did you hear that? Yep. I'm assuming you did. Okay, I'd like to call C2 now, please.
Oh, yeah, that's me. Yeah.
Great. Off you go. You've got 5 minutes.
Okay, so
and bear in mind, C2, about all these conditions, because I believe you've been sent the modified conditions. Yeah. So you just need to bear all those in mind.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we were pleased to hear that the oh, sorry, excuse me. We were pleased to hear that the beer garden hours are going to be restricted. Very pleased to hear about that. As someone who's had many years of experience in terms of what we've put up with as neighbours from the beer garden area of the pub, yeah, it's come as a very welcome. I would just like to clarify on the email we were sent earlier about the application. And point 1 mentions no music or amplified sound. shall be generated on the premises. And then point 2 says all music generated on the premises must be relayed through sound limiting. I'm a little bit confused by points 1 and 2 have been made. This seems to be a little bit of a contradiction there. Is there going to be any music or not? That's what I'm not sure of. In terms of the point 6, the rubbish, including bottles and cans, deposited outside the premises between the hours of 11 and 11 p.m. in the morning. I think some discussion needs to be made around the 11 p.m. marker point on that. I think that's pushing it to be allowed to empty bottles at, you know, that close to 11 o'clock at night. I'm pretty much really, there isn't really, as we were sent the email earlier, I'm quite pleased to see that lots of the points have been addressed, that you know, various residents have you know, had an issue with. The previous history of the pub for a lot of us residents, and there wasn't just one incident 2 years ago, there was an incident a good few years before that as well. So the pub hasn't had a good reputation for many years. And really, obviously, we welcome a family pub and we welcome a family atmosphere, but we really, really, really need reassurance on this. We need reassurance that when checks are done in 3 months' time, or 3 months after the license is given, that there won't be any backing down and things, because it's very wearing as a resident to have to follow things, pollution diaries and all those kind of things that really affect our lives on a day-to-day basis. So we really want the council to keep on top of this pub. That's all I have to say right now.
Thank you very much for that, C2. Suba, would you like to address those 2 points that were raised about the conditions? Did you get them? Maybe C2, you just want to mention them again.
Sorry, the 2 points that I made. One was
about the music, and the other one about bottles.
Well, yeah. So the one about the music was in the email we were sent earlier. There was something about no music being generated, and then number 2 was made about music generated coming through the sound limiting device, which we would expect, you know, from a pub anyway. So is there going to be music or isn't there going to be music?
Yeah, Mr. Murquette, do you want to just answer that question? Sorry, Sue, it wasn't you. It was Mr. Murquette I was thinking about.
Yes, yeah, I can answer that quite clearly. I think there's been a bit of confusion. George, the noise team officer, is insistent that there is no music, no music noise, no sound system, no regulated entertainment in the garden whatsoever. So that is nothing, absolutely nothing. But inside the pub, when there's a big acoustic lobby between the garden and the pub, and that will be closed at 6 o'clock, so the garden will be out of bounds, and the sound system in the pub for background music and sort of light background entertainment music will be going through a sound system, a sound limiter.
Okay, yeah.
Insisted is calibrated and checked to his satisfaction. So hopefully that clears it up.
Okay.
And the bottles, I sympathise with that completely. So I'm sure something can be conditioned that the bottles are collected before 6 o'clock or something. You know, something reasonable is fine.
Yeah. That's all we're asking for, really, because you know, you're not the only business around, and you know, we sort of have this happening. So again, you know, it's we don't want another business adding to that. In, you know, unsociable hours. That's all.
Great. Aziz, you had your hand up briefly. Do you want to come in and address that?
Yeah, well, I absolutely agree with Melinda that the bottles can cause lots of noise when they try to empty, but like it's like could be a crash noise. I will do certain hours, like I can get cleaner. I will get the cleaner anyway in the morning, so the cleaner can do it in the mornings, like after 9 or something. So like because
I mean,
will
that's a more
just leave them.
sociable time. Yeah.
Yes, sure. I will make sure that
Great.
that no bottle will be empty middle of the night.
Fantastic. Thank you, Aziz. Amanda, make sure you got that one, yeah? Right. Where are we? Okay, so thank you for that, C2. Do we want to try C1 again, or you just can't unmute?
Yeah, sorry. Hi, everyone. I managed to effectively re-log in and allow my microphone to work.
Okay, great. Do you want to go ahead then?
Yes, I heard quite positive, all positive, comments from effectively the fact that there's a new management. But we still have reservations. And from the past experience we have of our property, which effectively is on Ellingford Road, it used to be, it used to be effectively quite a noisy, we used to have people shouting and trawling the road, going from one pub to another, as you would expect, from Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays from 9 o'clock to the middle of the night. And since, I would say, since the Heart of Hackney has been closed, I can that it was a revelation. I would mention that almost 90% of this kind of antisocial behavior going on Elephant Road has disappeared. So reopening the pub, you will effectively imagine that people are horrified that this will come back. Now, I don't know how, and it was not explained how the new management is going to effectively attract a different crowd that was going to the Heart of Hackney in the past. I noticed that there's no rebranding, there's a willingness, just about the comments you had a bit earlier about a soft play, there's a willingness around the garden, but I don't know if it will attract this. And I would say that it was not a traditional family pub. It was more of a sports pub, kind of, football event type of pub with very long hours. I'm glad that effectively they are thinking about reducing the hours, but I don't know effectively if they have any other policies to attract a different. So that's the first point. About the garden, I still have serious reservations about the garden. It's a specific location. It's not a garden. It's not a beer garden which effectively backs onto a park, open space, or an open landscape. It's not a garden which backs onto a stretch of terrain, a long stretch of gardens or backyards. This is pretty much encircled, area. And you might say, yes, it's an outdoor space, but the fact that it's encircled by very tall buildings, it just amplifies any noise going on there, and smoke as well coming from there. My, previous experience of being effectively near that garden, living near that garden, and we have balconies, you have people with balconies, we have, small gardens, backyards, and all of that, or patios, whatever you want to call it. My experience was effectively we couldn't, we had noise pollution, smelling smoke, coming into our house. We couldn't effectively ourselves from any of that noise pollution. We couldn't open our windows, even with closed windows, even with some kind of roofing or whatever. The noise was going on and on and on, effectively, due to some operating issues. And granted, there's a new management coming in, willing to make real changes. But I still think that during the day, the noise coming from the chatting, from the people talking loudly and all of that, was still a pollution, was still something that prevents us to effectively use our own properties, in a comfortable way and peaceful way.
Okay, that's 4.5 minutes. Have you finished?
For now, yeah. Thank you, Chair.
Fantastic. Great. I mean, we can speak about the smoking and stuff in the discussion phase. So I would like now to invite. I think we've had C1. Yeah, we've had C. Have we had C2 yet? We've had
Yes,
C2.
we
Have we had C?
it's C5.
C5. C5 is next then.
Hi, yeah, that's me.
Hi there.
Nice
Nice 5 minutes.
Nice to speak to you all. I'm a resident of Hackon Square, and we all welcome the amendments made today and have been discussed in this call. And I guess I see it in how it's been described here is that we're grateful to the police and the environmental guys for making that happen, because they ultimately the people who enforce that stuff. And I speak for loads of the residents in this building, actually, when I say that we would love a traditional family pub. They are things that make communities, but let's be honest, this isn't one. And it's market says it ever was one, because it makes me think that the applicant's idea of a traditional family pub is very different. And it's those sort of ultimately false claims that make it hard to believe the pub's word on anything that isn't written down, absolutely definite as part of the application, as opposed to being just discussed on a call. Like, we think, what is a traditional family pub? It's a focal point of a community. It's the kind of place locals feel proud of and want to support. I can think of ones like Chesham Arms, Spurstow, Talbot, Prince of George, the Prince Arthur. Those are decent places for families at the heart of their community. And is that ever what the Heart of Hackney was? Let's think what the Heart of Hackney was. It was called a traditional family pub with a checkered history, and it's just not true. And it's that kind of stuff that really makes it hard to believe that this is actually a different business, not just a business forced to change to the exact extent of what is allowed by the police, and won't push the buttons and push that thing further when they get given the chance. I'm sure I remembers what it was like. It was not the focal point of its community. No one is proud of this pub, sadly, for this pub and us. I would love it to be the case that they were. I would love a traditional family pub. I've got a 6-week-old daughter sat next to me. I would love to have taken this pub. Its closure directly improved the local area for all of us, as was mentioned by the previous speaker. It is a business that has caused local residents countless nights of noise complaints, drunk and disorderly behaviour, and the mental health issues that go along with these. The garden, as discussed, has been a nightmare. I'm so happy that it's going to close at 6, if that's the case. That's not going to solve this business's much wider problems. I mean, most importantly, it had not one but two stabbings. Now, what sort of traditional pub, family, what point does the checkered history become the pub? I think 2 stabbings in 10 years is when that happens. And as much as I really actually do welcome what Mr. Murkett said, it is difficult to take as well, because he said in his application the pub was run successfully and safely for over 10 years before that most recent stabbing. That's not true. The first stabbing was 8 years before the second. And it's just that kind of like, say what we can to get away with it kind of what I think all of the residents' fears are, that once this meeting goes away, there's never going to be this level of, again, it will just become the same place it always was. So how can we ensure that claims like playgrounds, which would be great, and a desire to connect with residents are actually adhered to and not just things mentioned here? So, I mean, is this an application for a traditional family pub, or is it the trying of a really problematic business for residents, the police, and the council? And I think the previous person made a great point. It is ultimately the same place, has the same, looks the same. It isn't a different type of pub. It's not like lifting itself up. It's still going to be a place come and drink heavily for a long time at, and it'll attract the same people. And that, I think, is why this application is so problematic. It's not a total rehaul it needs. I actually went around local residents' houses. I went to Ellington Road and spoke to people as part of this thing. The pub claimed it never did. I spoke to the lady who discovered the blood on her doorstep with her children the morning after, and that was a pretty shocking moment for her and her children. It's still totally with them. It made them scared of their local area. It was probably quite lifelong traumatic for those kids. And as someone with a 6-week-old daughter, I don't want the same thing to happen. I don't want to step out and find blood on my doorstep. And I just don't see how closing at 12:30 on weekends, basically being exactly the same business, which will just attract the same people, means that is any different. So whilst I do welcome a traditional family pub, I struggle to believe claims that is actually what is being created here, and not just a pub that is pushing itself to the limits of what it was before, hemmed in by police and the Environmental Agency. And that's what I've got to say.
Thank you, Ed, for making all those points. I hope, Mr. Murkett, you've been writing down some of Ed's concerns and the others so that you can address them in the discussion. So I'd like to call C8 now, please.
Hi there, resident of Hackon Square with Ed. Honestly, I'd say that I concurred with a lot of what was said about from C1, C2, and Ed. like to add, I guess, one extra emphasis around the noise in the daytime. A lot of us, it's kind of indicative that is happening in this mechanism, this way, because a lot of us do this work using this method. And so noise during the day drastically reduces our impact to support ourselves. There's any of the other behaviors and activities that people have been mentioning about the area and the pub in the past. So I just wanted to add that because that's a main concern for me individually, but I definitely concur with a lot with what was said by C1, C2, and Ed. Thank you.
Okay, great. Mr. Merker, I'm just going to leave it for a minute. I'm just going to invite members. I know you want to address all those questions, but I'm assuming you've written them down. They're still in your head, so just keep them there. But just for the moment, I just want to bring in members because we haven't heard from members yet. So I'd like to invite members to come in with any questions you may have. So which one? Just put your hand up or whatever. As I say, Joe, I can't see you. Okay, Joe. Councillor Walker.
Thank you, Chair, and yeah, thank you for the presentation from the applicant, and then the presentations also from residents. What we've heard from the applicant is obviously the plans taking forward are about a fresh new start for the pub, and I think that's a really important statement in terms of provoking what we may decide on this committee as to whether we rebranch your license. And I don't want to go over the old ground of why your previous license was revoked and the reasons for that. But I think a really important question that we do have to ask and to push you on really a bit more is over, what does a fresh new start mean? There was clearly not confidence in the past over the management of pub. How can we, as councillors, have confidence that this is a fresh new start, this pub is going to be managed in a very different way, and that you're going to mitigate against a lot of the concerns that have been raised by residents this evening?
Okay, Mr. Merket, do you want to come in then?
Yes, I mean, I have a certain amount of sympathy for the residents nearby, but it's quite conflicting with the garden. The garden is effectively surrounded by houses very closely. But if we start off on a positive note, the police grilled Mr. Ozdemir for 1 hour before I was there so that he had to answer honestly about what he proposed to do, and the police were satisfied. Now, they've insisted that we have a meeting with the DPS, who's the day-to-day manager of the pub, who, again, they were happy with in the end, that he actually was going to move it forward as a traditional family pub. While we were in the meeting, we looked round and spotted a massive 12-foot pull-down screen. And Mr. Ozdemir said, right, that's the first thing that's going to go. That was for sports, presenting sports and all sorts. So that's going to go, and there's going to be no loudspeakers in the back. So, we really are trying, and I think Mr. Ozdemir will say this, we're trying really hard to work with the residents. But for someone that works from home, the ideal situation will be no beer garden at all. Now, it's a lovely garden. It's got 2 massive willow trees. The police were getting excited about where the kids area would be. We found the right location. I'm an acoustic consultant as well as a licensing agent, so I could work out where the minimum noise would be that would be redirected, echoes bouncing off the walls. Now, the noise officer has insisted on an acoustic report and survey specifically for the garden to address that. He's limited the numbers to 20 and he's limited it to 6 p.m. I'm not quite sure, if the license is granted, what more we can do. We're happy to work with the residents if they have a suggestion. But I can see straight away those with kids want a traditional family pub will want to be able to use the garden up to a limit of 20. And those that are working from home will want the garden closed all day as well as all night. So straight away, we're in a bit of a conflict. And I take advice from the councillors on this and the members of the committee to to strike a balance. But we are happy to engage with the residents on this, and it is a fresh start. I can't do any more than to reassure you that if the police are happy and they went for the revocation and they've withdrawn and they're not here, Amanda Griggs is who did the conducted the interview, is not here tonight, so she's ready to move forward and keep watching it. She's going to keep an eye on it, and the checks. The 3 monthly checks were suggested by the noise team. I'm fairly certain the police will be in there, undercover or not undercover, within the first week of opening. And anything that's slightly out of order will be sorted out. It's part of the reason that a new owner will not go through the rebranding and the new name and the whole new social media and everything is until if the license isn't granted, it's all wasted money. We have to say exactly what he's planning to do. Once it's granted, that's it. He does not intend to open it within a week. He wants, if it gets granted, he wants to actually have time to put all this in place, to tidy the garden up, get the consultant in, get a play area going, talk to the residents, get some suggestions, do the acoustic reports on the garden and make sure the limiter's calibrated, you know, get everything in order, all the safety checks. And also the police were quite keen on seeing what the security contract was, interviewing the security staff and making sure all the staff were suitably trained and were up to scratch. And the applicant said he would work with that, and she was extremely helpful in doing that. We all want the same thing. We all want a traditional family pub with a beer garden and everyone to be happy. That's it in a nutshell. I'll see if there's any more specific. I mean, I noted the Chesham Arms and the Talbot and the Spurstow Terrace. I mean, I know some of those pubs, and it's true that is the type of pub they're going to be aiming for. We even looked at the log fire. The police said, "Oh, wouldn't it be nice to get the log fire going?" Again, traditional family pub. There's no regulated entertainment. There's no late hours. It is a different pub. And to be honest, you have to give the new owner a chance to actually see that. There's enough people watching, me included, as well as the residents and the police and the noise team. And I think if anything, comments start coming in within the first week, both of them will be involved, me included, to try and sort out what teething issues there are in sorting that out.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McCann.
If I missed anything specific, I'm just having a quick look.
Well, I'm sure you'll have a chance to come in a bit.
Okay.
I'd like to just go to Councillor Ross, please.
Thank you, Chair. First, I'd like to thank you for your representations and also the residents for raising their concerns this evening. As has already been said, it's clear that because of what has occurred previously under previous management, unfortunately, what it means for you is that, you know, there is a lot of work to be done to kind of overcome, you know, the concerns and quite frankly, the trauma that has been suffered by local residents, and the fact that the location of the pub is surrounded by residential is also key. I know you've mentioned, you know, the key change for you is bringing a more family feel. I'm just wondering, aside from, you know, your example of instilling a play area, and I know you've just mentioned kind of taking down the screen for sports. Do you have any other ideas already that you or Mr. Ozdemir have kind of come up with in terms of really making this into a family pub? And how are you planning to go about kind of advertising the pub as more of a family centered place to come, when the pub has previously attracted a more undesirable clientele? So I'm just wondering how you planning to go about, especially when, as we've heard tonight, the pub itself, from externally at least, doesn't seem to have actually undergone any changes. So how will the public know that this has changed? and it's completely had a new kind of makeover in terms of the atmosphere that you plan to create there if a license is granted.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Ross. You want to come in, Sean?
Yes, I mean, I think as Aziz can mention some things in this. One thing we talked about straight away was a kids menu. There's Turkish restaurant one side that had a history with the pub that is now nothing to do with the pub. There's also the other side, an Italian restaurant. So straight away, Mr. Ozdemir has made inquiries to the pizza restaurant about supplying pizzas, getting a kids menu drafted up. I said to him, have you got anything drafted ready for the meeting? And he said, all in due course, we'll do that if it gets granted the first week. There'll obviously be a social media rebranding. The DPS is young, he's in his 20s or 30s. He has been told by the owner that the whole focus of this pub is a traditional family pub. It's not for late night, it's not for DJs, it's not for live bands, it's not for sports screening. It's a completely different focus. So he's going to have to find his feet on that, and so's the pub. But you know, that's the intention. I mean, if you have to rebrand the name, I mean, possibly a change of name. But I mean, that might be an answer. I mean, someone could consult with social media that the name might change to be part of the rebranding. I mean, they probably have to consider that. I mean, it is a pub that goes back, well over 100 years. It's a traditional Victorian pub that's been extended. And for members that haven't been there in Islington, we used to do visits where the members, especially a case like this, so controversial, they would visit the premises. I mean, we could invite all the members to do that, but the garden is lovely. I mean, it hasn't been used for 2 years, so it's all a bit overgrown and scruffy, but the potential's there. 2 massive willow trees, all sorts. And I mean, I could see straight away with all the sorts of an acoustic solution for mitigation of noise. We do rooftop terraces all over London, and there's living walls that you can put plants and all sorts to absorb the sound from the walls. So there's a lot can be done.
Okay, thank you. So I'd just like to bring in, I'm not sure which one was first, C1 or C5. So I'm just going to call C1. You've got your hand up. You want to come in?
Yep.
We've been 10 minutes on this, folks, so far. We're allowed 15. I mean, let's keep going.
Yes, 100 years, but the environment's changed within the 100 years. You had probably a lot of warehouses in the past, mainly around, Ellingford Road, which is not anymore the case. You got now families. Someone mentioned that by counting number of flats, you probably have 100 flats surrounding the pub, really close proximity, which means probably 300 people, including children. You know, indeed, the nuisance is such during the day that even if you would hear everything that they would say. So maybe the compromise will be, since the COVID era and everybody now working from home, maybe the compromise will be closing, the garden during the week and allowing it to open just on Saturdays and Sundays. That would be a good compromise. Just a food for thought.
Okay, well, do you want to come back on that one? You may as well just clear it up now.
Yes, I would say not everyone, thankfully, not everyone can work from home. It's either a luxury or a curse. I see it as a bit of both, really. But that's a bit unfair if someone wants to go for a quiet drink with the kids at 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon after work. It's a bit draconian for a pub beer garden to only open at the weekends. But we take advice. If the committee feels that's appropriate, that's fine. But I would say it's for those residents wanting a play area in a traditional family pub, that goes against it to keep the 1 or 2 people that work from home. The other thing I would question was the Ellingford Road. What I've observed, because I also deal with the restaurant next door and various other premises up and down there towards Hackney Central, is Ellingford Road is a cut through from Hackney Central to London Fields. It's not specifically due to the heart of Hackney. People go weekends, middle of the night, they go between. That's the main cut through from the centre of Hackney with all the bars and restaurants, go to London Fields. So I'd question that it's specific to the heart of Hackney, that drastic reduction in noise. But again,
well,
we're trying very hard to address all the concerns, all of them, the residents and the police and the noise team, and now the members on the committee.
I can assure you that it drastically changed. And there's another road, London Lane, which effectively goes again from Mare Street to the, the park. So Ellingford Road is not the only road that you would take, to go across. Now, if we talk about the garden, the lovely garden, during the closure of the pub,
14 minutes.
You had the effective party or the barbecues done between neighbors, but it echoes so much. It was, nobody abuses it, nobody effectively has kids parties. As if I was going to do a kids party from a Monday to a Sunday without receiving that area, I think even my own neighbors would complain about me. So now to give it to a pub, to invite customers to enjoy the quietness of our backyards, for the benefit of the pub and none for the residents, I think it's unfair. It's unbalanced.
Okay, Mr. Marquette, do you want to come back on that?
Yes, it's as I said, we're trying desperately hard to please everyone. But if one person works from home and doesn't want the garden used, and the other residents want a traditional family pub with the use of the garden and the restricted hours and with an acoustic report and the kids can have a soft play area, there's a conflict that we need to balance, and that's the job of the committee, not for me. We can work technically to quieten it as much as possible. We can work technically with the applicant to restrict the hours as much as possible. But to keep one person happy, I'd suggest living in the centre of Hackney's perhaps not the place to be living. I mean, Hackney is vibrant. It's a pub. There's restaurants and pubs that have got 3 and 4 o'clock licenses all over Hackney Central, and they walk up and down Mare Street. So
maybe we should do a
this
demographics.
hearing is specifically about this.
Okay, through the chair, please. Through the chair. C1, you've had your time, I'm afraid. I'm just going to invite C5 now, please. Sorry.
Yes. I was going to first ask, can even I know that there was no one on the Donner store to I think oppose it. I was
okay. Let's keep going.
But I mean, there's a couple of, it's just so hard to believe this stuff. And Aziz, you have said the right things, but you've barely spoken at all. And the truth is that this pub, to be what you described, would need to be a passion project of the owner. Do you know what I mean? You need to actually be like, I want to run a pub and I want it to be a traditional family pub. I don't know what your background is, Aziz. I don't know if you've ever run a pub before, for example, which is an important thing, but this would require rebranding. It would require all this new stuff. And then my question to you, Councillor Smith, is what on this call that we discussed is in any way binding for the application? For example, if they say we are going to look into a new soft play area, if they say we are going to connect with residents, how do we make sure that is part of the application as opposed to just being stuff that is discussed here? It's a genuine question for you. A couple of small points that I also love clarification on. Sean, you are an acoustic. Is it possible for us to guarantee that you are not the consultant who then decides that the acoustic levels are correct for the pub? Because you're obviously being paid to be here. Can we guarantee that's not the case? Because that would be a conflict of interest. And then I just want to ask as well, to confirm, no DJs, no live music, and the garden time is permanent forever. Are those things sacrosanct?
Yeah. Sean, hold on. I'm just going to bring in our lawyer on some of these points. Amanda, you want to come in? Just come back with the points.
Yes, sir. All I was going to say, Chair, is through the Chair. Chair, I don't know if you want to suggest that maybe because there's an acoustic report or something being carried out, whether or not some of these concerns that are being raised by the local residents should be part of the testing or concerns that should be addressed, in that report or in that period of monitoring, because that would be fair and reasonable. And also, Chair, I don't know if I'm looking at the conditions in the report. Is there a condition relating to having quarterly meetings with local residents or some other regular communication, so that to ensure that the local residents are still being heard and that any issues are being dealt with? Because obviously it's going to be a process. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, Mr. So Ed, in answer to your question, they've made commitments with the police and with the environmental health, and they've agreed a lot of conditions actually. Mr. Marquette, and that's how we control it essentially, because if they don't do what they said they're going to do, then obviously we can get involved. But Mr. Marquette, want to come back on?
In the past, we have offered to have resident meetings. I've been away travelling, and Aziz has been away travelling, and the meeting was then cancelled and rescheduled. So it's been difficult to do that. But normally we would do that, and I think we should in this case. Aziz has said he doesn't want to open for a couple of weeks, and that's fine. If there is these concerns, it's kind of up for the residents to decide, well, is there a beer garden or is there not? Is it during the day or is it just weekends? I mean, with the members guiding for tonight. But I mean, I'm all in favour of everyone pitching in. The police and the noise team will be doing rigorous checks, and on the legal side, it's quite easy to change that condition from within 3 months that we do the noise report and survey for the garden within the first month, or even before the garden's used, if you're so concerned. I mean, that could be the case. And the noise team guy was very aware of it. I suggested 30 or 40 people in the garden. He said, no, that's way too many. From his experience, 20 to start, reconsider it after 3 months. So that's where the 3 months came in. So it's very much go really carefully at first, and if it works and it's popular and there's not disturbance and there's no complaints, then it's reviewed. But I'm more than happy to give the technical advice at the very beginning rather than 3 months when there's already issues already brewing. Very much so. And the residents' participation is usually very positive because they come up with some ideas that we haven't thought of.
Yeah, great, thank you. I want to bring in is it C2?
It is C2,
Yeah.
Chair.
Yeah,
Yeah.
C2.
Yeah, do you want to come in?
Yeah, I just really want to address, stick to the beer garden. The whole idea that you think only one person works from home, Mr. Marquette, I find absolutely. I have essentially looked at the number as someone who backs on to the beer garden, the amount of flats that are there. I've looked at the amount of residents that must be in those flats. I know how many residents are in our flats. There are 22 flats, and most of them are multiple occupancy. So a lot of these people work from home. So please don't insult people by saying because of one person working from home that they won't be affected by this. The noise, as C1 said, the noise does get amplified. It's like an amphitheater, that beer garden. It's not pretty. It's not beautiful. It does have 2 lovely willow trees, and thank God for those because they shield us a little bit. But in the time that I've been living there, which is 15 years, there was a time when that beer garden wasn't used. It was only Mr. Abachi who put that beer garden back into use. That was an empty space. It's not a garden. It is just an empty space, a gap between the residents around there. It was never made as a garden. It was only implemented as a beer garden by Mr. Abachi. So the noise amplification that comes from there even if there's only 5 or 6 people in the beer garden. So I am really keen to find out exactly what kind of dampening, I know about living walls, and I know about what plants can absorb, etc., etc. But some of that stuff has already been there because it's been overgrown for so long. It has been bliss since the pub has been this last couple of years. And the difference that has made, like C1 said, people respect, actually, a lot of the neighbours now respect even more the peace and quiet. This is not just about, oh, if you live in central Hackney, you should just put up with the noise environmentally. This is not about that, actually. A lot of us are family, okay? We've chosen to live here, some of us, because it was the only place we could find. We needed to be near work. So there are lots and lots of reasons why people are here, and why people even live in London, full stop. It does not mean that they should have to put up with noise. That's all I have to say.
Okay, Mr. Murquette, just hold on there for a second. Just want to bring in Councillor Ross, unless Amanda's urgent. Okay, Councillor Ross, please.
Thanks, Chair. I just wanted to go back to an issue that was raised by one of the residents about the smoke. I wondered if you could address how you're going to mitigate this as an issue and try to kind of put residents' concerns to rest in this area, not just in this beer garden, but also at the front of the property as well.
Yeah, we were going to talk about that in the condition, but do you want to address those couple of things?
I think Mr. Ozdemir is happy if the residents want a barbecue is there. If they don't want a barbecue is not there. That's the main generator of smoke. The garden would be a non-smoking area. I think they've agreed that. The smoking area is out the front. The restrictions on the smoking area were set by the noise team at, I think, from 6 or 8 people at any one time smoking out the front and 16 people sat down. So it is very tightly conditioned, and George will be straight onto it because I've worked with him on lots of bars, and especially with this one where we're going for a fresh premises license, he will be onto it straight away. So, but again, we're open to suggestions from the committee. If you think that's too generous for the smoking, fine. But the rear area, it could be conditioned for no barbecue. It seems a shame with the garden, but still, if the feeling is strong enough, that would be.
So no smokers in the garden and 6 outside the front, yeah? Cool. So Amanda, we're going to amend that condition 20 then, if we approve this. Yeah, 6 smokers, yeah? Right, I've sort of lost my train of thought there. I was just about to write something down. Okay, Councillor Walker.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, clearly we've heard from residents quite a lot of concerns around the escalation of antisocial behaviour if the pub does reopen, and we take that very seriously as members, and try to look at ways in which that can be sort of mitigated. So I'd like to just sort of press you a little bit more just around some of those plans. If we are to grant you a license, we will, in the interest of fairness, hearing, be looking at what residents are saying and looking at what you're saying, and hopefully, we can come to a place where it feels fair in terms of some of the conditions that would be put into a license. But I think around the issue of antisocial behaviour, certainly there's concerns based on sort of previous experience of when the pub was open. How are you going to sort of mitigate against some of that, and what kind of security are you going to put in place with the pub to really reassure residents that some of the past experiences that have been talked about will not be repeated?
The security, the police were very tight on that. There's one person, they put restrictions and their conditions that have just been unreservedly agreed. I haven't got that in front of me, but that's been agreed with the police. And Mr. Ozdemir is also wanting to get a female security officer on in addition, so there's one of each. That should help the situation. And again, it's that's the intention. If the license is granted, quite happy to have everyone come round after a week, residents, police, noise team, and have an initial inspection once it opens. It's kind of, you have to give them a chance to try. And I know there's lots of concerns about the previous pub, but it's a completely different owner, a completely different DPS manager, completely different security. It's conditioned to the hilt. I've yet to do a license where it's as tightly conditioned as this, but I do accept the residents' concerns, and I know why that is necessary. So the new owner is prepared to do that to actually get the pub open. And the situation with the garden is open to the members to decide what is appropriate. The police were more than happy with 9 o'clock. the residents wanted 6, some wanted 6, some wanted 7, some wanted during the week, some wanted the weekend. That's for the members to decide what is appropriate and condition it. We're more than happy to have the conditions on the noise report for the garden within a week of opening, if that's the case. But George, who's very practical, said, well, you can't do a report without someone being in the garden to test the results. But in doing that report, none of the recommendations will be in place. Now, at the moment, it's 4 bare walls. So straight away, really deep absorption can go in there and the trees in leaf. So, you know, it'll take a while to put those recommendations in place. If you feel it appropriate, you could limit the garden so it's not open until those are in place. I mean, that's another condition that may be a bit draconian in the middle of summer, but it's an option if you so choose. We're more than open for consultation and talking about ideas.
Thank you very much. Okay, Amanda.
Yes, Chair. Chair, I don't know whether you would want to hear something from the actual owner, because I don't know whether or not you feel you.
Yeah, no, I was just about to get onto that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
sorry, apologies. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you.
C2. I can't. Somebody got their hand up there.
Yeah.
I'm seeing your name,
Yeah.
not the.
Sorry, C2. Yeah.
Yeah, C2. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I just really want to briefly just go back to the lack of resident consultation. No matter what's been said, no matter this whole idea that there were meetings cancelled and things like that, none of us ever received communication that on the subject. None of us in our block. So, you know, we're not very heartened by the idea that there were meetings, because it wasn't like you put a notice up in the pub window to say invite everyone. It wasn't done. You may have had a chat with a couple of people locally, but ultimately you didn't make it a public consultation with the neighbours.
Thank you for that point.
Okay.
Steve, I can see your hand up.
Yeah, just to effectively concur with Melinda, you know, C2, we were not approached in our block either in Ellingford Road.
Thank you very much. Okay, Amanda, but before I need to come in as well at some point. Amanda.
Yes, Chair. Chair, I don't know if you want to consider, I know that the applicant's agent has said that the members are entitled to make the decision as to how they want to restrict the use of the garden. But would you want to consider maybe proposing that the use of the garden is only for a certain number of days of the week? I don't know how the local residents will feel about that, either, you know, or reducing the number of weekdays that it's used to try and compromise in some way.
Okay, Mr. Murkett, you've heard the question. Just keep that in the back of your mind. Come back on that. You might need to consult with your client. I don't know, but have a think about it. So, look, I'm going to come in now, and I think we need to hear from you, Aziz, a little bit, just about your experience. Your experience in particular as a new owner of a pub, and have you turned around other pubs like this that have been, you know, sort of problematic? Has that been part of your history? We want to know a little bit more about any connection. Mr. Murkett said that there was no connection between you and the previous owner, but we'd like to just explore if there is a connection at all, what that connection is, if there's a history there, because obviously that owner is right next door, because they own the restaurant, so they're kind of still around. And they could still be influential. So I just want to understand what's going on there exactly. The police mentioned a dispersal policy, Mr. Murkett. Have we seen that? If we haven't, could we think about doing one? We talked about the smokers. Now, just as is, I just want to mention the expedited review. I don't want to go through it in any detail.
So just, I've been waiting for, I've been listening and...
okay, that's great. Just hold on a second.
Sure.
Ultimately, the subcommittee had no confidence in the management, and that's why the license was revoked. So you need to basically give us the confidence that you're going to go ahead and it's all going to be okay. I also want to ask one final question about, you know, You said you will adhere to new management policy to ensure staff are well supervised and working to achieve the licensing objectives. Either one of you, Mr. Marquette or Aziz, if you would like to address that. But first of all, we want to find out about you a little bit. So what your history is, what your track record is, your connection with the previous owner. Yeah.
I don't have any connection with the previous owner, and as before this pub was open and all this. Nice to hear all this what was happening, because I can take a more how would I say, to make sure that it's not gonna happen again. All this what happened in the past. I mean, I don't have no connection with the next door. Is here where it was. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna make sure I have the good security inside and outside front of the door. I got the sound system done, but if needed, as like on the garden, I can make sure that better sound system.
Yeah.
I'm
What
gonna remove that.
experience do you have, Mr. Aziz? What experience do you have?
Experience. I worked in the restaurants as a chef. I worked pub. I served beers, but I never been as a manager in a pub.
Okay.
So that's why it's gonna be if I have the chance to run this business, it's gonna be a big opportunity for me. So I like to control it, and I like to welcome all my neighbors. I mean, it's nice to hear all this what was going on and why all this complaint was. So I trying to make sure that it's not gonna happen. There's no smoking, so no more than like lots of people hanging outside. And the other thing is, it's really short hours. I mean, I know it's gonna probably disturb them. I mean, until 6 is the maybe shortest pub garden will be open if I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Do members want to come in at this point and ask Aziz some questions, maybe quickly? I mean, bearing in mind we've been on this 35 minutes, but I think it's important to just get a fair hearing here. Any member? Do you want to? Councillor Ross, Councillor Walker, would you like to ask Aziz something? Yes or no?
I've got nothing further to ask. I think I'm quite clear on.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Ross.
Yeah, so I just, just going off what was just mentioned in terms of experience. Can you let us know about the team you're planning to hire? From what I understand, you're going to hire a completely new team to help you run the pub. So can you tell us a bit about that and what experience they will have as well?
Yes, sure. I'm gonna get. They're gonna be always someone who's gonna have a personal license that I'm gonna get for them. So I'm not gonna straight away open this pub. I make sure I get experienced stuff, and I make sure that they always have a license behind the bar who will have one at least. I mean, it's gonna be like a slow start for me, but as I said, I make sure I get experienced stuff. Second thing is they get the course done, licensing, so they know what they're doing. And security-wise, these guys, I talk to them and I arrange a agreement with them. They're really good and well-known company. They're gonna be someone inside always, outside always. Keep an eye. The garden is the mainly point that we're gonna be so careful as well with everything. But as I see, the neighbors around the pub is quite disturbed. So that thing, like, I'm gonna make sure there are gonna be no more than 20 people outside, no smoking. Someone gonna always follow that up, and I'll make sure it's gonna close before 6. Like by 5:30, I'll just push them all in.
Yep. Okay. PC Hunwick, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, Chair. Although police have withdrawn from this, I don't know if you wanted a little bit of clarification, as I was the officer that actually brought the review and brought the revocation of the actual license.
That'd be useful.
I think the whole issue here at the moment is whether or not this is a new application. Aziz, I believe, is now the leaseholder, and the previous license holder is now the freeholder. He remains the freeholder of the pub. I think it might be worth conditioning, if the license is granted, that there is no way that he is allowed on the premises or involved in this business, because as the freeholder, ultimately he still owns the pub or the fabric of the pub. So if everything is to be believed as it stands, that this is a new business moving forward, there should be some degrees of protection from the existing freeholder. He was the problem before. He still remains the freeholder, and he should have no running in the pub whatsoever, or be allowed to put any pressure on how the pub is run.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that intervention, Mr. Murquette. There's a few things there. There's that you've just heard. There's the dispersal policy, and there is the idea of the garden opening. Not opening for the whole week. So there's 3 points there that you need to talk about.
Okay, let's clear up the last one. The freeholder is a Vietnamese gentleman that I've met, and I've met his son many years ago. We did a lot of work with the snooker hall. He owns the whole block. He owns all the flats. He owns all of Ellingford Road that is sublet to different freeholders. So he is the freeholder of the pub. But I think if the police are happy with a condition like that, it's up to Mr. Ozdemir whether he agrees. He was nodding during that, so I think they'd agree to that. What was the second one? Careful with the garden. What perhaps not everyone realizes is that Mr. Ozdemir is the owner of the pub. The person doing the day-to-day running of the pub will be the DPS. The DPS takes legal responsibility. The DPS is the person that will get screamed at if there's a problem, and then it will be Mr. Ozdemir. But the day-to-day running is an experienced pub owner who's young and been given a very tight brief. And the police, Amanda Griggs, wants to actually meet him as soon as possible, the 3 of them, if the license is granted, and go through and check his training, his attitude, the whole lot. So that's kind of tightly controlled. I think that would answer quite a few questions. I'm not sure if I've missed. Was that
dispersal?
Dispersal policy? Yes, that will be produced within the first week. So we'll get that going before the pub opens.
Okay, and the
police did ask for that, and it's something that was overlooked from the previous owner. So, but now it's restrictions on the garden. There'll be, and we check the fire exit from the garden goes into an alleyway, so that it'll cover all that as well in the case of fire.
Yeah, and have you thought about the question about the weekdays?
I'd bounce that back to the committee. It's the committee members to decide. Obviously,
Okay,
Mr. Ozdemir would prefer it open. I think till 6 o'clock is pretty restricted as a beer garden. To restrict it to Thursday to Sunday, I think it's a bit draconian for can be a local beer garden.
Yeah, thank you for that, Amanda.
Yes, Chair. I appreciate maybe not restricting it to Thursday to Sunday only, but maybe just reducing the number of weekdays. Chair, I don't know if
I don't think they're up for that. It's down to us to decide what we're going to do about that. Right. Okay. So look, I want to push on, folks, because we're on 42 minutes. I think we've had a really good discussion. It's been great. I think it's C. Is it C1? C1 again, or C2? I'm seeing M.
C5. C5 and C2.
C5 and C2. Thank you for that. I'm not seeing the C's on the screen. So yeah, do you want to come in? C1. Is it C1?
C5.
C5. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say. Sorry, there's kind of a baby next to me, but are we agreeing here then that we think there's no connection between this application and the previous owners, despite Mr. Murquette saying on this call that he represents the restaurant next door, which is still owned by the previous owner? Are we to assume that's a coincidence here? That's what we're being asked to believe, right?
Mr. Murquette.
I've been dealing with the previous owner there. I dealt with the previous 2 owners to this pub, the Indian gentleman whose name I've forgotten, and I've dealt with the freeholder who organised noise reports and soundproofing probably 15 years ago when he built the flat. So there's no particular conflict of interest. I work with whoever will employ me to do it, and I'm open in that I'm a licensing agent, but primarily an acoustic consultant. So I started off doing noise reports and then got into doing the license. So I qualified to do the licensing and that, but there's no apparent
Yeah,
In
well,
fact-
Mr. Marquette, you know that that's all on public record what you said about this, yeah? So that's,
Yeah.
you know that, and you wouldn't say it otherwise, I presume.
No. I mean, the other thing is that George has pointed out that there's been complaints in the past about the plant noise and the air conditioning noise and stuff on the roof. I've since found out this week with the visit with the police that there's now a gym underneath the pub, and they are the ones that are responsible for the air conditioning units and the plant. Now, that used to be a Vietnamese social club that I used to deal with those as well. So that's the plant noise, and the kitchen extract noise and the odors are coming from the restaurant. So George will no doubt be chasing the owner of the restaurant, and I would no doubt will be going there to sort that out. So in terms of the residents' concerns, all the concerns are being met, but they're being met by different people paying different bills for different reports. That's
Yeah.
the best way I can describe it.
Thank you. C1, I believe. M.
C2.
C2, sorry.
Yeah, C2. Yeah, I'd just like to go back to what what somebody said about the person who's going to be doing the day-to-day running of the pub. It would have been.
Yes.
Does anybody not think a person had been at this meeting so that they could learn about what they were supposed to do? Because because Mr. Ozdemir, with respect, has said he'll be doing this and he'll be doing that, but we're now to find out that he's actually not going to be doing the data.
Yeah, I think the police have said that they're going to kind of monitor. Is it Mr. Kaya? They're going to monitor him essentially to make sure that he's doing what we all want him to do. And if he's not doing it correctly, then he'll be changed. Is that correct? Can you confirm that, Mr. Marquette?
Yes. Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. Amanda, can we condition something like that? Is that possible?
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
Can we condition the fact that the police will, they'll come and assess Mr. Kaya, and if he's doing okay, it'll be fine. If he's not, then he'll be replaced.
Well, I don't think we can condition that. I think it is something that the police have agreed to do. So, I mean, I think it's fairly clear, though, because we will record it in our decision and everything, that the police have agreed to monitor.
Okay, that's good.
Should they not be happy with the DPS, that they will make representations back to the licensing subcommittee.
Yeah.
So, which would be something in the nature of a transfer of a new DPS. Should that happen? Obviously, we hope that the DPS will comply with all the requirements and requests.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, obviously, why they haven't attended today, but obviously that only the applicant knows that. So.
Fantastic. Okay, look, folks, I think we need to move on to the next stage. We've had a good, 45, 46 minutes on this. We're well over, but we've had a good hearing. We've had a strong discussion. We've heard from everyone. So we've got all the information we need to make a decision. So let's move on to step 7, which is closing remarks. So I would like to just bring you in, Mr. Marquette, just with your closing remarks, please.
I'll keep it quite brief. I think we've had a very open and frank discussion, which has been very positive. Bit of an oversight not bringing Mr. Turach along the DPS, but were quite insistent that they were going to monitor the situation and talk to him prior to the pub opening and agree, the way they're going to monitor the situation and what steps will be taken.
Yeah.
Basically, the new owners basically bent over backwards to comply with everyone, with all the responsible authorities. All the conditions have been agreed unreservedly. No negotiation on them. The noise, the police, the rubbish collection. The highlighted areas have been identified, and we're quite happy for some of that. If it's the garden is the main focus, to deal with that before the garden can even be put in use, because to put a play area in and get a consultant's not going to happen overnight. So it could be that waits a couple, 2 or 3 weeks until that's analysed and set up. So that's fine. And on the issue of how many days the garden's used, I mean, I honestly leave that with a committee to decide. Because obviously it's been fairly restricted. So we would hope that perhaps 1 day a week off or something, but not, to start restricting it overly. Or perhaps to review it after 3 months. I mean, that might be the answer. I don't know, one way or the other. That was George's approach with the noise team. But I do appreciate the concerns of the residents, and it's a fresh start. So I hope Mr. Ozdemir is given the chance to prove himself, with many hundreds of people watching him very carefully. every step of the way.
Okay. I
That's-
would mention, you mentioned the log burner in the pub. I mean, we do prefer kind of, you know, it's a smoke, I believe we're in a smokeless zone in Hackney, so we wouldn't be endorsing that really.
No, that's fine.
Okay, so I want to hear from, just very briefly, folks, just give you an opportunity, C1, C2, C5, and C8. Just like literally 30 seconds to a minute each. So let's start with C1.
Thank you, Chair. I strongly believe that the garden will be an issue, still a source of nuisance in terms of noise, and effectively restricting it in terms of days might be a good compromise. Bear in mind that children live nearby and they're 3:30, and they would like to enjoy their own gardens as well. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great. C2, please.
C1 on that issue, again, as someone who has a patio that backs onto the garden, and I have a family as well, and I know lots of other families. I don't really want to hear the swearing that I used to hear at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Yeah, the garden's an issue, and it's a major one.
Okay, thank you for that. C5, please.
Yeah, reiterate the point on the garden, and then I guess for me it's just that issue of believability. Like I personally don't, even though I think Mr. Osme seems like a very nice man, I don't believe that you have the desire to like change a pub. You know, I didn't feel there's any confidence in and any belief in actually really what was being said in terms of like what is required to run a pub, and then it turns out that the person who actually would be responsible for that isn't here, which just really emphasizes how little actually the pub would actually change, because that's if all the decisions are being made by that person and they're not listening to this, then this just feels like I've already said, like just bluster for this call so that we can get the application through. I don't have a confidence in this pub being different to the way it was before.
Okay, thank you, Ed, for that. You've made that very clear. C8, please.
Yeah, I definitely concur with what's in the garden. I guess I just leave the hearing with one idea or note that I didn't hear come up at all. I don't really understand the necessity of opening the garden at all. Plenty of pubs don't have them. So I don't know how that factors into the economic viability of the pub, but that seems actually more of a, you know, of a potential solution, given a lot of it has to do with noise and use of the back area. Thanks.
Okay, great. So that's fantastic. Thank you, everyone. So we've got step 8, which is final point of clarification. Members indicate, I want to ask one more question myself, but any points of clarification from members?
No points of clarification other than, you know, we've you know very clearly heard the concerns from residents. We take that very seriously, and you know we will be looking at that as we review what you know might go into a license and the conditions put in place. And we will assess that along how confident we are in terms of the new management being able to adhere to those conditions and ensuring that you know those concerns raised by residents will be addressed going forward.
Yeah, fantastic. My point, Councillor Ross, you okay?
Yes, I'm fine. Nothing further to add
Great.
to.
Yeah, just what kind of food is it going to be? Mainly, what sort of food are you going to provide, Aziz?
I've been talking to the Triangle next door. It's a pizza place, restaurant, and he's been quite positive to like I'm gonna make a menu kind of with pizza, and it's got a kids menu as well in it, like little chicken nuggets with chips, or I mean. I've talked to him. He's okay to go ahead with me, work with me as well.
Okay, so pizza then, like a pizza.
Pizza, yeah, pizza
Okay.
and beers would be good.
Okay, and maybe some olives, maybe might be nice.
Yeah, olives, like Italian dish is quite nice. Italian olives the best.
Okay, folks, thank you. I think we've reached the end of the meeting. So thank you very much, everyone, for your time. It's been you know quite exhausting, but we've got there in the end. So yeah, thank you very much. All those involved in this particular agenda item, if I could ask you to leave, that would be great. And then we can move on to agenda item 7, I think it is. Thank you very much. So, folks, do we need a comfort break? Just indicate if you'd like to come for a break. Everyone
Just
wants-
1 minute.
Would be helpful.
What's that?
Just
I think
1
a
minute,
couple of
please.
minutes would be helpful.
So should we take a couple of minutes then? Yeah? Is 5 too long? Or should we make it 3?
A couple of minutes is fine.
Okay, 2 minutes then. Okay, so sorry, Mahir. I know you've been patient, but we've been sitting down for a long time. I want to stand up for a minute. Great. Okay, we'll see you in 2 minutes.
And it will be too much.
Okay. Just 2 minutes. Just wait for everyone to come back. Thank you for that respite. It was nice to stretch my legs. We're just waiting for people to come back on. Yeah. If you're back on the call, please. Let's see you. Essentially, you know, if you can just put your camera on, it'd be good, so I know who's here. Yep. Channing, are you there? Councillor Ross?
Yes, Chair, I'm here, yeah.
Oh, great, thank you. Amanda, are you there?
I think everybody's still probably will probably be back in a couple of minutes, Chair. I don't see Amanda or Councillor Ross on my screen, so
Okay.
I think we'll
Councillor
do
Walker back.
Councillor Walker is back, yes.
Okay, cool. All right,
Yeah, Chair.
just take a deep breath, everyone. Be patient. They'll be here in a minute or two.
You must have a very small screen, Chair, if you can't see everybody.
Well, a lot of people are not. Their cameras are off.
Chair, slight technical question. Are you using a laptop or a tablet?
iPad.
Right. Okay.
That was my question, because you always say you can't see me on the screen at all. So
Yeah, I can't see because your camera's on, isn't it? But I can't see you.
Right. It sounds like you're certainly in Google. There's a setting where you can essentially increase the number of tiles, if you want to call it that, in front of your screen. So, for example, I can see everybody on my screen. But
Okay, I mean, I can see everyone on this call, but basically, I can
Yeah.
see people who are like on camera.
Yes.
Apart from Councillor Walker, I don't know what's going on
Yeah.
there.
Well, in fact, Councillor Walker for me is in the centre of my screen. So,
Right. Yeah. Strange.
we-
Anyway.
Perhaps after the call, or maybe tomorrow, have a chat with Mario, see if there's something you could maybe perhaps tweak in the settings for
Yeah.
your iPad.
I've never had that problem before, where if somebody's on camera that I can't see them. So,
But
but everyone
obviously,
else I can. It's just
yeah,
Councillor
but
Walker.
obviously, after a certain amount of people are on the call, then I think it probably just limit how many you can actually see on the screen, as far as I've understood. So,
Yeah, no, but it's not. That's not the problem. The issue is that I can't see Walker. Oh, I'm on low battery now. What's happened?
okay.
Oh, that's why it wasn't on charge. Right. Okay. Right then. So, I think everyone's back.
Yes, it looks like it, Chair.
Yeah. Okay. So let's crack on with this one. So we are now on agenda item 7, which is the application for a variation to a premises license, the Dollar Store, 468 Kingsland Road, Hackney E8. So I would like to invite the Principal Licensing Officer, please, to outline the report for this case. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. So the next item we are going to consider is, as suggested, is a variation of a premises license received under the Licensing Act, Section 34, is for the Donor Store Kebab, 468 Kingsland Road. The applicant is seeking to extend his late night refreshment until 30 past midnight on Thursday until 1 a.m. on Friday and Saturday. Representation still remains from police and licensing, and I have nothing else to add. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much for that. That was nice and brief. I would just like to say that in the application form, the hours and the opening times and stuff were a bit funny, so we'll have to kind of discuss that. They didn't quite correspond, but anyway, we'll get into that later. So can I invite the applicant, I presume that's Mahir, yeah, to come in, please, and support, put your case forward to support your application. Thanks.
Thank you. I've just
thank
noticed.
you for your patience, by the way.
You're most welcome, but thanks for the warning in advance about the hours not being the closing hours not being
synchronized.
Not being synchronized. Yes, but I'll be very brief. And let me just open this up on my server, Chair. Just give me 1 second, please, to ensure what the site notice was displayed as. I'm just opening up the site notice that we have put through. Right, extending of hours, provision of late night refreshments Thursday to Saturday until 2:30. So the hours you are considering for extension is from Thursday to Saturday, from 1100 hours to 02:30 hours following morning. That's perhaps why my colleagues did put 2300 hours as closing time. Rest of the week are not licensable activity. They are not licensable activities.
Yeah, but here, let's get into that a bit later. Just you need to basically, put forward your case really in support of this application. So let's talk about the hours later.
Chair, before I start making my submission, there's a slight amendment. If you please turn page 82 of the agenda, at part 3, there is a section where it says, do you want the proposed variation to have effect in relation to the introduction of the, do you want this proposed variation to have effect as soon as possible, where we tick yes?
Yeah.
Right. That is going to be no now, and we want this variation to take effect as of 1st of August 2023. And I'll come to the reason for that.
Okay, it actually is ticked no at the moment on there. It's no already. I don't know if you can see that.
Oh, it's clicked as yes.
It's no already.
Oh no, it's the part where it says part 3, the first paragraph where it says, do you want the proposed variation to have effect as soon as possible?
It says yes there.
Yes. So that is now no.
Okay.
And we are asking if the committee is minded to grant this application, we are asking to grant it as of 1st of August 2023. The reason I say that, as you know, your current licensing policy has gone under consultation, and the consultation period was ended 26th of June 2023, just 2 days ago, and the current licensing policy will expire, in effect, will be dead by 31st of July 2023.
Yeah, but it's not relevant. It's not relevant, actually, Mr. Mahir.
The reason I say that, the reason I ask you to grant the application as of 1st of August, so there will be no light, even if you grant the license, it's not going to be used before the 1st of August. Was because the Dalston Special Policy Area is no longer going to exist as of 1st of August. Therefore, the licensing authority's representation and police's representation on the basis of the Dalston SPA area will no longer be arguable for this application.
Okay, stop there, Amanda.
As far as I'm aware, I'm not aware that the Dalston SPA is going to be removed. I haven't had confirmation of that yet, because I know that the special policy areas are going to be reviewed, but I don't know if it would have been concluded as of the 1st of with the new policy. So I haven't had any feedback about that. I'm sorry, I can't comment.
Unless your
Sorry,
licensing
Mahir, one
officer.
second. Mr. Hunwick. PC
Yeah,
Hunwick.
Chair. The special policy area still exists in its entire form at the moment. It will be redefined or possibly stay the same depending on the separate consultation that is taking place. So at the moment,
that's later. That's in October.
yeah. So at the moment, Chair, you are hearing this application today on the basis of the existing policy area and licensing policy.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think Amanda would agree with me now.
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
Can I please share my screen so you can see what I've received from David Tweed, a licensing officer, licensing manager of the of your authority. This was sent today, 28th of June at 6:01, and it says the SPA boundaries are removed from within the draft document that was consulted upon. However, the current policy remains in place until 31st of July 2023. That's your licensing manager.
Yeah, but today's not past that date. We're hearing this hearing as of today's date.
Yeah, thank you. This is why I said if the license is granted, we want license to take effect as of 1st of August 2023.
Yeah, but you can't apply on the basis of what may be in the future. You're applying on the basis of what is in place today.
Well, I understand your point.
All I would say is I'd ask Amanda. She's the legal representation here.
Yeah, Amanda.
Chair, my view is that I need to, we would need to check with the licensing authority whether or not Mr. Mahir can withdraw and resubmit his application, because you know, we have to consider it now within the existing policy. If he wants to consider it after the new policy comes in, he needed to wait until that new policy comes into place to see what actually has taken effect. I note that email has just been sent, but I wasn't made aware of that, the contents of that email which you've been sent. So I can't say definitely. As far as I understood is that the special policy areas were going to be dealt with, as Councillor PC Hunwick has said, in a separate consultation process, which is going to take place after the new policy comes into place in August. So that is a separate consultation. I'm not aware of what's been decided. Obviously, there will be decisions, there will be amendments to the policy, but I don't know what they are. And we've not been told that this is what we now need to take into consideration when making this application today. So that's our difficulty.
Okay, may I ask, so just to be very quick, may I ask this meeting to be adjourned to a future date? I'm sure it's not going to be heard before the 31st of July, so we can come back to save money on sending another application and re-advertising it and paying all the costs. I'll kindly ask to adjourn the hearing to a future date, and we can come back once the policy being published, once you can confirm your licensing manager, what he emailed me is actually taking effect.
Chair, I would suggest that you ask for the licensing department to check that now. I'm not sure whether or not we can adjourn, but I would ask for the licensing principal officer or the licensing authority present today to comment.
Okay, Suba or Channing?
I've got no problem with an adjournment if that's what the applicant is seeking. The availability of the next meeting, though, Suba may be able to advise a bit better on.
Channing, can you just maybe help clarify something? Obviously, there's going to be a window here whilst we do the independent there's going to be an independent report produced by an independent body to see whether any SBAs are needed at all. But in that window between the policy being presented and the outcome of the report, is there kind of a presumption to treat them the same kind of thing?
As the applicant has applied now and it's being considered now, the policy that's in place now is what it's being considered under.
Yeah, but after the 1st of August, for example, when they're sort of temporarily removed, possibly, we don't know until the report comes back from the independent consultants who are looking at the whole of the borough and making their recommendations. You know, is there a presumption that they're still in existence until the report comes back, is what I'm saying?
Yeah, we'd have to actually have the report first. Like we wouldn't be in a position now to presume whether they would stay or go. We'd have to actually have the report to inform us as to what would remain in place or what would.
So that window, essentially, those SPAs would be gone, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, well, they're under consideration. I'm not sure the exact status of if they're
we definitely need as members clarification on that. So if you could take that one away, everyone, that'd be good. PC Homwick.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the legalities would be something for the lawyers amongst us to actually work out or not. But I think from a moral point of view, is if they have existed until such times as they are terminated by reports, etc. I think the presumption is that they should exist. Obviously, Dalston and Shoreditch remain saturated by licensed premises, and obviously councillors on subcommittees should still consider that as being a just reason to judge an application.
Yeah, we just need clarification on that, PC Homwick, and I agree with you.
Yeah.
Amanda.
Also, Chair, the actual licensing policy needs to be approved by both council and the licensing committee. So those approvals have not actually gone through yet. Had we had those approvals gone through to say, oh, okay, a few days ago, something's been approved and therefore it's just a matter of days or something. But that approval has not been sought and it hasn't been granted yet. So that's where the difficulty is. I don't have any knowledge of what the amendments will be yet on the policy. It's still all being dealt with following the closure of the consultation. So I do feel it's still early in the process. I do feel that Mr. Killick could have actually asked the licensing authority about this before coming today, or made some inquiries earlier today about this, rather than waiting until now to actually raise this as an issue.
I'm quite surprised that your colleagues in licensing team or legal team does not aware of that the Dalston SPA will be gone completely by 1st of August. And in any case, there are no public representation at this application. It's only licensing authority and the police. It's not in the public interest not to adjourn the case. So you can be confident that you can adjourn this meeting to a future date. There is no harm to adjourn it to a future date. We are not going to be benefiting from this application in the sense of going away and just, this is not a review application, this is a variation application of a new license. So we will be carrying on the license level activities as we currently have our own license.
Yeah, but we've heard from licensing and they're happy to adjourn. If members agree, I'm happy to adjourn as well. It's fine.
Chair, we need to check with the licensing officer.
We just did.
She's happy. Okay, that's fine. Okay.
Well, I mean, Channing. So, Suba, are you happy as well?
Yeah, that's fine. If the applicant wants to adjourn it, Chair, then yeah.
Yeah, sorry, Suba.
Sorry, I'm just double checking that we've covered everything. That's all.
Yeah, PC Humway.
Yeah, one thing I would add was that our representations were put in over 6 weeks ago, and the applicant has made no contact with us whatsoever regarding this application. And I do feel, in the light of this conversation, that the whole reason for that was that they wanted to rely on this possible temporary lapse on the special policy area, because there's no reason why they could not have gone through our representations in advance of this meeting. We've had no contact at all. And I'm very, very disappointed by that. And I just want to make that a point of public record.
Yeah,
it's very, very important to make a public record of this. It's so important. Police station is only 3 doors away from our office. We call them like.
So why didn't you visit, Mihir? You've got our contact details, Mihir.
Yes.
You've been in contact with many different applications.
Yes.
On this particular one, you ignored us.
I haven't finished. This is what I'm saying. I haven't finished. It's only 3 doors away from our office. We probably call the Hackney Police Station licensing team over 10 times every week, and we get nowhere. always goes to voicemail. We email them. If we are lucky to get a response by an email. You can never get anyone from Hackney Police over the phone. Never. Never. And don't tell me you can. Because we
So
are, I am
what
personally
phone number? We all
recording.
have private. We all have private phone numbers. We have
I
a
don't have your
joint
private
email.
phone
I'm not going to
numbers,
get an
I'm sorry.
argument here. There's no emails in our inbox from you, and we put our representations in 6
just for
weeks ago.
another
And it
premises,
sounds to
Dorothy,
me,
I've got like
if you're
tens
going
of
to keep on
emails.
talking over the top of me here,
Yeah,
it
please,
sounds to
through the
me that
chair,
you're
everybody.
relying on the
I can
on the
email the
going
copies.
for
Neil,
your
I have that
application.
I'm sorry, Mr.
Sorry.
Philip, can you please stop? Can you stop?
Through the chair, please. Let's have a sensible adult conversation here, not a big argument.
Yeah,
Amanda.
I do not want to offend Neil. I did not email him. It was Amanda
Mahir,
and
thank you.
Carrie that I was
Amanda.
emailing.
Yes,
Thank you,
Sarah,
Mahir.
I would say
Amanda.
that I don't agree with Mr. Killick. I do believe that the police do respond to emails. I don't know where he's been emailing, but to the best of my knowledge, I know that emails have been received. But obviously, in respect of this application, Mr. Killick hasn't been making, there isn't any correspondence. Both the police and licensing appear to be saying that they've not had a great deal of communication. So,
Okay, so thank you, Amanda. So this is an opportunity, Mahir, for you to get hold of the police and let's talk about it, yeah, during the period of the adjournment. So look, if members are happy and licensing are happy, let's adjourn this to another date. And then we will clarify the sort of this period of sort of when the SPA is lifted.
after the 1st of August.
Yeah, our position on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, Chair. Just for a matter of accuracy of the minutes, I understood that there is not confirmed that the SPA has been lifted. Just for clarity. So we don't know the status of the SPA at the moment. It's still
Yes,
in
that's
operation
correct.
at the
Yes,
moment,
we don't know the status of anything.
and we don't know until.
Yes, we have to wait. We have to wait. So the purpose of the adjournment is to wait for the new policy to come into force and for this hearing to be adjourned to the first available date after the 1st of April, or when the new policy comes into
Gareth,
force.
I would say, I mean, that email from David Stewart makes it quite clear, really, that it will be lifted until the review.
Okay. Okay.
So that's, you know, that's, but then we need clarification. I couldn't read that, Mahir, on the screen, you know, but you
So
seem
it's
to
not
have,
been approved. It's not been approved by the council or the licensing committee.
No,
yet.
so it's not yet
a
policy.
requirement. It's a
Yeah.
requirement to have that done, regardless of what the licensing officer is saying now.
yeah.
It has to be approved by a committee report
Yeah.
to those two committees.
Yeah.
And unless that's fully approved, only then can the new policy be adopted and implemented. So
Yeah.
we can't rely upon it yet.
Yeah.
So it may be early days, he's saying something now, but I'm not of, you know, he's got to put that in a proper report first.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, I do apologise, Mr. Killick, but we have to follow the council procedures. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Amanda, for that clarity. And we'll clear all this up, Mahir, don't worry. Okay, so we're going to adjourn. I presume you'll work with the licensing department to pick another date and stuff like that.
Thank you.
So, Suba, Channing, you know, want to work with Mahir, and then obviously, you know, get hold of the police and have a chat with them as well in the meantime.
Look, just want to be clear. I did not email Neil. It was Amanda. Amanda from the licensing police, not Amanda legal team here, and also Kerry Ryan, which I believe no longer in the licensing team. We get no response from them at all. At all. You know.
Okay, well,
I'll find out Neil's number and I'll email Neil separately.
Okay, great. Okay.
Mahir, you should have the CE licensing mailbox. We're all in the same mailbox, so.
Why don't I get any response? I'll send you a copy of emails.
Amanda deals with all the new applications. She replies to everybody. She's very, very efficient. Okay. I'm here on her behalf tonight. I work with her. She told me she's had no response. If she tells me she's had no response, she's had no response. That's where we're at with it. We're quite happy to work with you. We could have probably worked previously in advance, Mahir, as we normally do. But the point being is we had done nothing. So that's why we're here. But anyway, we move forward.
Thank you.
Chair, if I could just ask, if Mr. Hunwick, just for the avoidance of doubt and for clarity, could either Amanda at PC Griggs or yourself send an email to Mr. Killick with the correct email addresses so that he has no issue in emailing you with his queries and requests?
I've been emailing the licensing team in Hackney since 2005. I've got their correct email address. Just I don't have Neil's personal email address.
Okay, great. Thank you. We're going to try to
Thank
make
you.
an effort for everyone to communicate together, which is what we need. Okay, folks, I think that's it. So thank you very much, Mahir, for coming. Thank you, PC.
Bye-bye.
I know you've been very patient, both of you, to end up with an adjournment. It's not the result you really want, but what can we do? That's
fine.
That's what we're going to do. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
See you.
See everybody. Bye-bye.
So